Welcome to Ouch. Was that a ghost? This podcast may contain graphic material, which some listeners may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised.
Help me.
Now that we covered that, here's your host, Liz.
Welcome back to Ouch, Was That a Ghost? Today we're going to be talking about an oak chair that a murderer loved so much. Like, there is Petty and there is Thomas Busby Petty. Thomas cursed his favorite chair to prevent others from sitting in it, and those who have ignored the warning have perished soon after. Like, how dare they sit in Thomas's seat? Some people call it the Busby stoop chair, or the dead man's chair, or even the death chair. So we're heading to the UK. Way back in 1702, Thomas Busby. He was known around town as a drunkard, a criminal, having a really short temper. He was just into all sorts of illegal business dealings. Thomas married Elizabeth Oddie. He owned and ran a tavern. Elizabeth's father, Daniel Oddie, so Thomas's father-in-law, was also like a really just bad dude, shady guy. He was into making like fake coins. And Daniel Oddie bought a nearby farm about 3 miles away from the inn that Thomas and Elizabeth had. He named his property Donati. Get it? Daniel Oddie, Donati Hall. This secluded land was perfect for Thomas's father-in-law's illegal activity. It said that he even built these underground chambers, which is kind of cool. So Thomas and Daniel, these two men, worked together counterfeiting or whatever made them a quick buck. They were into all sorts of illegal activities. These men were known to argue a lot, bicker, but on this one particular day, there was this disagreement between Thomas Busby and his father, Daniel Oddie. I'm not really sure what the argument was about, but later in that day, Thomas returned to his inn and he found his father-in-law sitting in his chair. He loved his chair. The thought of someone else sitting in his chair enraged the short-tempered Thomas Busby. It's not clear what the argument was about. Some say it was about Elizabeth or her father threatening to bring her back home. I'm not really sure exactly how it went. But finding his father-in-law sitting in his chair ended up with Thomas Busby physically removing Daniel Oddie from his beloved chair and tossing him out of his inn. Later that day, Thomas Busby, presumably still fuming from him daring to sit in his chair, he went to Donati Hall armed with a hammer, which he then used to murder his father-in-law. He then took his father-in-law's body and tried to hide him in the woods. But people noticed Daniel Oddie's absence, so the locals did a search party and his body was discovered in the woods. Thomas Busby, the prime suspect, was arrested for this crime while sitting in his chair in 1702, and he was later found guilty and sentenced to death. Now, there's a few lores. One was that he was granted his last wish, which was to have a final drink at his inn before he was to receive his death sentence. And obviously, if he's going to have his final drink at his inn, he's going to sit in his chair that he loved. So after he had his drink, he was said to have cursed the chair, that death shall come to anyone that sat in his chair, to prevent anyone from ever sitting in it. Another goes that he drunkenly cursed the chair while on his way to his death sentence. Either way, he wanted to make sure no one sat in his chair. So Thomas Busby was to be gibbeted and then dipped in tar to preserve it longer. Gibbeting is the gallows-type apparatus. So picture that tall pole where a dead or dying condemned criminal would be hung and then often displayed, sometimes just hanging, sometimes in a cage from the gibbet, leaving the dead body on display as like a deterrent, and oftentimes letting the person slowly die from the elements or dehydration. Thomas Busby was put to death, and the chair remained at the inn. Locals spoke of how the vengeful spirit of Thomas Busby, or maybe just his curse, remained with the chair. The inn closed for a while, and it was named a historical building, renamed the Busby Stoop Inn, and it reopened years and years later. So one day in 1894, because remember, he was murdered in the early 1700s. A few guys were at the inn having a drink, and one of them, a chimney sweep, sat in the chair. Thomas Busby's favorite chair, his chair. This chimney sweep never made it home that night. He was found the next morning hanging next to where Thomas Busby was executed. His death was ruled a suicide. Now, on this death, the man that he was out drinking with, years later on his deathbed, did admit that he robbed this chimney sweep and murdered him. But who's to say the chair didn't cause that? The lore of the cursed chair was known in the area. People would go to see it, but wouldn't sit in it. The pub actually even roped off the chair to deter people from sitting in it, and it had a little paper that told them about Thomas Busby and the curse. During World War II, so again, fast forward a bit, some airmen would stop by the bar, out for a good time, and they dared each other to try the chair. And it said that every man that sat in the chair never returned home from their missions, either MIA, killed in action. In 1968, again on a dare, a few men sat in the chair, and when they left the inn, their car crashed into a tree, killing both men. Others have sat in the chair, and then some died in crashed motorcycles, vehicles, right after sitting in it, from heart attacks. A cleaning woman from the pub didn't even purposely sit in the chair. She fell into the chair and got a brain tumor and ended up dying. There was a group of construction workers who went to the inn, and they talked one of the young guys who worked with them into sitting in Busby's chair. The young man did it. They finished up there, and they all went back to the work site. And that day, the young man fell through the roof of the building onto the concrete to his death. The owner, after seeing all these people ignoring the rope and the deaths surrounded by the chair, he found the chair too dangerous, so he decided to put it in the basement. But even in the basement, a delivery man was there making a beer delivery or alcohol delivery, ended up sitting in the chair. He sat in the chair and said, "Oh, this chair is too comfortable to be in the basement." The delivery man, like so many before him, died shortly after when his vehicle went off the road. The chair is connected to at least 60 deaths. Some put it as high as 90. The inn's owner decided the chair was too dangerous to keep there. Even in the basement, it wasn't safe. So the chair was donated to the Thirsk Museum in 1978. And as an added precaution, the museum hung the chair high on the wall, almost to the ceiling, to prevent anyone from sitting in it. That was per the donor's request. The museum has been offered quite a bit of money for people to sit in it. I think one time somebody offered them $1 million, but thankfully they have kept their word and kept the chair mounted high in the wall, preventing anyone else from sitting in Thomas's chair. The chair has been debated because of how it was produced. A furniture historian dated the chair as being produced in 1840, far after Thomas Busby was executed. Others argue it's totally possible for the chair to actually have been Thomas Busby's. The Busby Stoop Inn is no longer the Busby Stoop Inn. I think it's an Asian Indian fusion restaurant now. But whatever this chair is, this oak chair, it's said to be one of the most haunted items in the world. So is the chair cursed, haunted, or is it just coincidence? But that is a high number of deaths related to the chair to be coincidental. I'm not sure, but I don't think I'd sit in the chair just in case. Let me know if any of you guys have visited the Thirsk Museum or have seen the chair in person. I'm curious if it has like some sort of energy it gives off, whether it is just dares or it's actually something in the chair that actually draws people to want to sit in it. Well, thank you everyone so much for listening. Till next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you need more content or just want to help support the podcast, head on over to patreon.com and search Ouch, Was That a Ghost? If you need some snazzy merch, you can find it at crowdmade.com by searching Ouch, Was That a Ghost? If you have a story you'd like to share, you can email it to ouchwasthataghost@yahoo.com. You can also find us on Facebook and all the other social media platforms under Ouch, Was That a Ghost?
Help me.
All links can also be found on ouchwasthataghost.com. crowdmade.com.